Hi, everyone. Welcome to our speaker series. Today we have Alette. Let's get started. So, Alette, please introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Alette Lawton. I'm a current student at UCLA studying microbiology, immunology, and molecular genetics, and I'm originally a transfer student from Moorpark College.
Nice. And what leadership roles do you hold now, or did you used to hold?
So some of the leadership positions that I've held in the past at Moorpark College, I was the Associated Student Director of Student Services. And then this past year at UCLA, I was the Office of the External Vice President for USAC's transfer intern.
So, what did you do as the Director of Student Services for the Associated Students of Moorpark College?
So I mean, kind of as in the name, I connected students to the student services meant to support them. And I would kind of split this position into events and policies. So as part of our events, I created our first student services fair. So that allowed students to meet face to face with services that maybe they had only read about on the website. And then this also includes things like our safe sex event every Valentine's Day, our Pride Festival that we would hold in October for Coming Out Day, and more. And then for policy-wise, I implemented preferred name and pronouns to our student ID cards. I advocated and got a student recommendation vote for the Academic Senate. And then I also wrote, proposed, and then unanimously passed 5 resolutions for the statewide Senate for California community colleges.
Wow. Can you tell me more about the 5 resolutions that you passed for the Student Senate of California Community Colleges?
Definitely, yeah. So the first one is safe sex education. So proposing that community colleges have mandatory safe sex education that would be both inclusive for information about healthy relationships and LGBTQ+. The second is post-registration name and pronoun changes, loosely based on the student's inability to change the name on their student emails that we encountered a couple of years ago. The third one is course-embedded student services, along the idea that student services shouldn't just be there in the background for students to find themselves, but should be advocating up front, oftentimes in the classrooms for students, telling them, hey, we are here, we can help you, and here's how. Um, the fourth one is course accessibility for students with disabilities. That one covers that courses should inherently be accessible by design. So certain things like classroom electronic bans can put certain students at a disadvantage compared to their peers. And then the fifth one is safe parking programs. And that would allow students to safely park overnight on campus with amenities like restrooms, showers, and Wi-Fi provided.
Thank you. Yeah, and we'll get more into the safe parking programs in a bit. I also wanted to ask about your role while you served as the college's student representative on faculty committees. Can you tell me more about that experience?
Definitely, yeah. So some of the faculty committees that I served on was the Academic Senate. I also served on the Student Equity and Achievement Committee. So the committee focused on providing equal opportunity to students from disproportionately impacted backgrounds and ways to increase their success rate in their courses. I also served on the Raider Central work group, Raider Central being our college's food pantry. And then I also served on the Guided Pathways Health and Wellness Committee, providing access for health-specific student resources for things like our nursing program.
So cool. Thank you, Alette. I'll move on to the next question. So you're a transfer student and a graduate of Moorpark College, where you served as a director of student services for associated students. So community college students report some of the highest rates of housing insecurity and homelessness. How did you advocate for housing insecure and homeless students in your role as director of student services at Moorpark College?
That's a really great question. So I think the most recent report that I had read in 2023 was that 68% of California community college students struggle with housing insecurity. So to put that in perspective, that's more than 2/3 of our students. So day to day in my role, I'd mentioned I served on the Raider Central work group. So being able to do surveys targeted towards people using the food pantry to see, hey, here's what we're providing, but what do you really need? For example, was a great way that we were able to get diapers for student parents added to our food pantry, although not food. And then other things such as at the events, I was able to give out a total of 4,000 free meals to students. Things like bookstore credits to alleviate textbook costs. And then I also worked with local food vendors to get food discounts from the Student Equity and Achievement Committee. We worked on zero textbook costs to allow entire degrees to be formed where students would not have to pay for a single textbook during their time. And then I think a really big one that I worked on was safe parking programs to allow students to safely park in an area that they are comfortable in and focus on being able to finish their classes with something provided as a place to sleep at night.
Yeah, that's super important for students' basic needs to be met so that they can actually succeed in school and focus on classes. So I'm going to talk more about the safe parking program. Um, your resolution eventually became a bill AB 1818, authored by Assemblymember Corey Jackson. Can you tell me what your resolution was about and what inspired you to write this resolution?
Yeah, so safe parking programs, my resolution, essentially proposed that a designated parking lot on campus would allow students to park overnight during the hours where it's not used. This would also include things like overnight security. We would designate a building such as the gym to stay open late so that students can access the restrooms, the showers, and the gym itself. And this would also allow students to access the on-campus Wi-Fi and be in a community of other people who may also be struggling with housing insecurity. Because the last thing that you want to worry about when you're trying to get your degree is where am I going to sleep tonight? Where am I going to eat tonight? And this was originally inspired by actually my work in the Raider Central work group, where we had been battling some local legislation about um, gift cards, the fact that gift cards can't be given to students due to certain regulations for things that are open-ended, like grocery stores. Um, and one of the members of the work group had mentioned, wow, it would be so great if we could give grocery store gift cards because of how many of our students are sleeping there. And I said, the students are sleeping where? um, and so it kind of just opened this door into, yes, these third-party grocery stores are allowing students to sleep in the parking lots at night, but it may not be like that forever, because these are third-party stores that can change their mind at will. Additionally, just worrying about the safety of students, having students in an area where they may not necessarily know what security is going to be provided, what stability is going to be provided to me with this. It's rubbed me and a lot of people that I know like the wrong way. And so we wanted to do something to change that. And that came through this resolution. And about a year later, it turned into AB 1818 by Assemblymember Corey Jackson, which was fantastic. And the bill essentially originally had proposed that the safe parking programs would be implemented straight away with passing, and then later changed that it would be a pilot program amongst a certain number of community colleges and Cal States.
Thank you so much. And I also want to talk a little bit about the barriers that you might have faced while you were proposing this resolution. I know that you began at your campus and then later turned into a resolution for the Student Senate of California Community Colleges. Can you talk more about those barriers that you faced?
Yeah, definitely. Barriers, I think, came up on both sides of the equation. So, for example, when I had first started fledging out the idea and I had a meeting momentarily with the chief of police, I had mentioned to her that I thought that safe parking programs would be a great way for students to have stability. And she pretty much immediately shot me down, saying that the budget would never allow it, that the police would have to come in and dispute violence that would go on in these parking lots at night, and that it would become a lawless area. And it kind of just left me thinking, like, these are the same students that are sitting in classrooms just trying to get a degree, like the American dream of furthering your education. And she was essentially accusing students of being lawless the second the sun sets. And I understood the concern about budget constraints. Of course, everything comes with a price tag, but the 30-year plans that I see colleges implementing are only going to help students 30 years from now. And which is great. Don't get me wrong. We 100% want buildings and affordable housing in 30 years, but we also want solutions now. And so I oftentimes will get people saying, well, we don't want students sleeping in their cars. We want them to sleep under a roof. And that is true. Me too. I think we all do. But because these solutions are oftentimes 10, 20, 30 years away, this is a solution that can be implemented now at a very low cost that would provide immediate relief for students. It's meant as a stepping stone towards the greater path of solving student homelessness, but you have to start somewhere.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I agree. We need both long-term solutions, solutions that get at the root of the problem, but we also need something that is happening now and supporting students that are housing insecure or homeless now. Okay, thank you. So why do you think it's important for students like you to be part of leadership positions that shape policy at their schools, communities, and government?
So obviously a position is not a mandatory thing to advocate, but it is a really great benefit in that you can work with like-minded people on issues that you care about. And sometimes you'll work with people that don't necessarily agree with you, but then you can figure out, hey, why do we have this difference of opinion? We both want the same end result. Why are our means to get there different? And just overall, the exchange of ideas that happens from working in a team from a leadership position like this is, I mean, extraordinary. Um, Also, working in a group, you can make change better and faster than just working by yourself alone on things. So the fact that the community college and then even at UCLA, the fact that USAC had passed a resolution in support of AB 1818 definitely helped to get word out about this issue. Um, and then finally, I would say a position greatly helps you get meetings with people who are higher up. So if you're just someone attending UCLA, you are much less likely to get a meeting with the president of the college than for someone on the USAC board, for example. Or if you are a intern or something at your local government office, you are way more likely to be able to talk with your local government officials than if you are someone who is just registered to vote necessarily.
Nice. So it sounds like you don't need to be in a leadership position in order to advocate, but it does make it makes it easier to maybe meet with officials and meet with, people that make decisions. I appreciate you for shedding light on that. We'll move on to our last question. What steps should students take when advocating for their basic needs to be met? And what's some advice you would give students who want to take up leadership positions or begin advocating?
Okay. So I think I would have a couple main suggestions. The first being talk to other people about your idea or solution. Being able to chat with others about what you are thinking will allow you to get broader perspectives. So for example, when I had first encountered the safe parking issue, I had thought that nothing like this had ever existed in the world. And a quick Google search proved me wrong. Long Beach City College has actually done an amazing job with safe parking. They are a role model for how a program should be. They've got very standard parking, stability, the same place, same time every day. They've got security, and they've got a good handful of students who are really, they're starting to see the impacts of this program. And so being able to see that this is being successfully done somewhere overwhelmingly increased my confidence that this issue would go above and beyond and could become a statewide reality. I would think another main thing about that is when I was additionally first fledging out the idea, I had talked to someone and they had mentioned, well, where are students charging their laptops? There's no outlets in parking structures. There's no outlets generally outside. Where are students going to be charging their computer at night? And it really led me to think about something that I would never have otherwise thought about. I'm very fortunate in that I have stable housing, but that meant that I didn't think about outlets. So being able to also fledge out the more tiny details of the program really helped. A second recommendation I have, make sure that your solution is something that students would actually use. So a lot of times I think I see bigger organizations or colleges suggest solutions to greater problems that students want fixed, but maybe not in a way that would alleviate the stressors that the students want alleviated. So um, certain colleges I know have been implementing programs where students have to jump through hoops to get into the program, or the program, while it benefits one group of students, makes it harder for other groups of students to do the same thing. So being able to make sure that your solution would not place additional stressors on students and would actually be something that they would want is a great, great step as well. And then I think the final thing I would recommend, don't get discouraged. Advocating for basic needs is a long process. I mean, AB 1818 did unfortunately get shut down by the Senate Appropriations Committee during Suspense Day. But that doesn't mean that the overall issue of student housing has gone away. It just means that we need to work harder towards creating either the same solution all over again or an even better solution immediately to solve this crisis. So even if you don't immediately see the results of what you are doing, speak loud, keep speaking loud, and as long as you are advocating for your basic needs, people can't ignore you. So keep it up.
Thank you, Alette. I love what you mentioned about student-centered solutions and getting feedback from students and learning if they would actually use that program or solution that's brought forth. So I appreciate you saying that, and I agree. Change takes time, and don't get discouraged if you get that first no. I know that's something that you didn't do, so keep going. And yeah, thank you so much for agreeing to and for this interview, and I really appreciate it.
Of course, thank you so much.